Well, thank you very much. Thank you to Rachel and Tim for their very gracious comments, and in particular, thank you to my wife, Libby. I've got to tell you that when we filed the registration papers for this campaign, the first two names that are required are who's the candidate and who's the chair. And we had to flip a coin. And I got to be the candidate, but Libby is the chair because Libby is an active part of this campaign. She's driving this campaign, and she'll be an important partner to me as she's been in the past and going forward. Minnesota clearly needs new leadership. And if there were any doubt, look at the reaction of our state's leaders to this week's court decision on unallotment. The same solutions that failed in the past now are proposed to fix an even bigger problem in the future. We've been in this mess for a long time, yet legislators seem surprised with every forecast that shows the hole getting deeper. It's like having an entire legislature with simultaneous amnesia and deja vu. They've forgotten this before. It takes a while, doesn't it? And it's no wonder that this is the leadership we get when much of public policy is driven by political strategy. We have politicians driven by narrow interests, focusing on who's right, not what's right. It is policy of, by, and for getting elected. Leaders of the DFL and GOP can't even agree on my candidacy. Democrats say I'll appeal to Republicans, Republicans say I'll appeal to Democrats. So I want to stand up before you and thank both party chairs, Brian Melendez and Tony Sutton, because I thought I'd have to buy advertising to get that message out. The truth is, we are at a critical crossroads in our state's future. We're getting a lot of heat from our leaders, but little light cast on real solutions. We have in St. Paul the descendants of those who drew Theodore Roosevelt's anger a century ago. Rhetoric is a poor substitute for action, and we have trusted only to rhetoric, said President Roosevelt. If we are ready to be a great nation, we must not merely talk, we must act big. And if Minnesota is once again to be a great state, we too must act big. We must act big through bold economic strategies that create desperately needed jobs. The 200,000 people unemployed and the thousands more who are underemployed or who are working 2 and 3 jobs to earn one decent salary need the hope of policies designed for the many, not the special few. We must act boldly and with the courage of our convictions for our children's sake. If we do not change our policies and our investments, Minnesota will have, for the first time ever, kids who will grow up to be poorer, less healthy, and less educated than their parents. And that is not acceptable in Minnesota. And it will take action that is both big and bold to rein in a government that is growing larger, less trusted, and less responsive. The Democratic and Republican parties have endorsed candidates who represent a legislative body that is too timid to lead, too polarized to achieve, and too invested in the past to create a new future for Minnesota. So what is it that I offer? What I offer is the recognition that to move 4 years forward, Minnesota needs an independent thinking governor to get Minnesota started, to get us headed in the right direction. Minnesota needs independent leadership to break free of the status quo. You know how Ronald Reagan defined status quo, don't you? Status quo, he said, is Latin for the mess we're in. We need leadership that is rooted in the same kind of innovation and new thinking that have changed virtually every private sector institution. Not just reform, transformational reform. We can't afford public policy nips and tucks. We need to fundamentally change how government operates, making it more accountable, more efficient, and more effective. And that will only come with an independent governor. Because every time the status quo is challenged, a Democratic or Republican vested interest screams for protection. So let me say this right now. When special interests scream, independents are notoriously hard of hearing. Second, we need political reform. The most important political reform of the next 4 years will be redistricting, the once-a-decade law that requires Minnesota to draw new boundaries for legislative districts. Redistricting must occur in the next governor's term, and any plan must go through the governor. If legislative districts in Minnesota were created to be competitive, to give Democrats, Republicans, and independents equal opportunity to win House and Senate seats, the process of public policy making would be transformed overnight. That's going to take an independent governor to make sure that it is Minnesota's interests represented in redistricting, not the Democratic or Republican interests. And the third reason to elect me is maybe the most important. We need to put Minnesota's fiscal house in order. And let me be clear, the financial crisis facing our state is overwhelming. It is upon us right now, and if we don't deal with it honestly and boldly, it will bury us. It threatens everything we know and love about Minnesota. We need to say to every Minnesotan, your expectation of government must change. We no longer can afford to think that every problem has a government solution or that every government program deserves a permanent lifeline. This is going to take hard choices, politically unpopular choices. Is that my time? All right, let me just wrap up. I want to say two quick things, and I apologize for going over. The first is that we need to make these tough choices. I'm willing to make these tough choices. I'm willing to be a candidate who goes into office saying, I'll make the tough choices, and if that means I'm a one-term governor, so be it. That's what Minnesota needs. And lastly, let me just say that even though Minnesotans don't have a long history with the Independence Party, our best days as a state have always come when we have had leadership that is independent thinking. That is both the opportunity and the need in 2010. I ask for your endorsement because I believe together we can again make Minnesota a state of greatness. Thank you.